Okay, everyone. Well, thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions. And today I'm joined by a very, very special guest, professional boxer, Popeye the Sailor Man, Richard Rivera, who is today in persona, as you can see. Today we're going to be talking about this man's incredible journey through boxing, from the background that he came from to achieving everything he's achieved today, being in the ring with some great names. I think that the best is yet to come for today's guest in terms of the biggest fights are still on the horizon. As always, with my interviews, not just talking about boxing, but talking about some mindset, talking about some hope, some inspiration, and how anything is possible with belief and hard work. So, Champ, thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure.
Nah, the pressure's on mine, honestly.
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. So I think sort of a fun place to start today. Some people will know this, some people won't, but the whole Popeye persona, how you came to be known as that and how you came to basically become that, as we can see today. Where did that actually start in the beginning?
Well, I mean, I was always, called Popeye here and there at the gym, but it really stemmed from one time where, we were all just joking around the guys and we're all teasing each other. And one was like, yo, man, this dude looks like Popeye, man. I'm about to rank this. And from there, I just ran with it. I was like, okay, I like that. I could run with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's where it started. Very cool, very cool. I love it. And like I said just now, before we started recording, thank you for showing everyone that side of your persona today with the hat and the pipe and everything. Absolutely super cool. So one of the things I do with these interviews is I like to give people some hope, some inspiration, some positivity. Never dwell on anything negative, but I like to get into how people overcome things in their life. So if we go back to your early years, there were some challenges there that went on. What I'm curious to know is how you built the belief and the mental toughness in your early life to basically pull yourself out of that situation and get to be where you are today, the man you are today, and having some of the success that you're having today. Now, I know this is quite a big question to start with, but hopefully it'll give people some hope and some motivation if they're going through some of what you went through before, if you get what I mean with this one.
Well, I would say, like, aside from like the negative or the positive inspirations or motivations, I would really just say, like, there was just something deeper within me that just, just wanted more out of life, wanted more out of myself. I wanted to push myself to the max. I wanted to see what I was capable of. I not in the most negative way, but I just wasn't satisfied. I wanted more. I wanted to see the world, and I knew that boxing was going to be the way to get me to meeting new people, seeing new places, and building these type of relationships.
Absolutely. And in those early years, who were some of the people who helped you, whether this is like, people who trained and coached you, people in the community, or even if it's like other boxers that you looked up to at that time, and sort of admired from afar. Who would be some of those names that you'd like to mention with that?
Oh man, we had a lot of inspirational fighters along the time. When I was a lot younger, there was a man named Julio Costa, a big friend of the family, and he was somebody that boxed, and he always gave us a lot of inspiration. And where I'm from, John Scully is a well-known name, and he was somebody that I always looked up to and wanted to not just meet what he was able to do, but surpass what he was able to do to almost earn his respect. And I've always been a big fan of like the Roy Jones and Macho Camacho, and I not just to name a lot of fighters, but my father was a very prideful man, and he motivated me a lot into who I am today.
Absolutely, that is incredible. Obviously, something here that's sort of a little bit not on a specific timeline and everything, but with your career, you've also been known to sort of resurrect and bring a lot more attention to boxing in your area, in your community. This is something that I've come across in like different articles and things I've read about you. How do you feel about the impact that you're having on, your community, your hometown, your local area, other sort of up and coming boxers? Now, don't get me wrong, we'll hone in a minute on some specific fights of yours as well, but I just wanted to start with a few broader topics to inspire people,
Well, I mean, I think it's a blessing. It's almost surreal because I didn't think I had the capability of giving inspiration to others, or, shedding light, or going to the gym and seeing the kids, hey, Popeye, and they're really taken to me. So it's really given. So it's unreal. I love it, and I hope I can continue becoming a history maker.
Absolutely. Well, I believe you will. And I think it's something that's very valuable about your journey as well is, obviously you're a super exciting fighter to watch. Like I said, you've been in some amazing fights so far, more yet to come. But there's always this sort of broader impact, where you're showing people what's possible. And I just wanted to touch on that. So when we get into some specific fights of yours, now there'd be too many today to talk about them all. But I'd like to touch upon basically what are some of your favorites encompassing your pro career so far, and touch on your amateur career as well, because I know there's a few bits and pieces there, but just some of your personal highlights. I know it's a big question, but I love asking this because you often don't get the answer you expect, if I hone in on this fight or that fight, and we will do that. But some of your personal proudest moments and the reason why they are your proudest moments as well would be great to touch on.
I mean, I think boxing is one of those things that continuously gives me those type of proud moments. I can remember my first amateur fight. It was, I was scared to death. I was calling my brother. We were having prayers over the phone, and he just wished me good luck. And when I went in there, I can remember, the form and the fundamentals completely shot out the window. It was no form, no fundamentals. It was just fighting for dear life. It was 3 rounds of me swinging, and I remember just being so tired. And it was when the final bell rang and they held my hand up. It was like, yes, this is for me. Okay, now we really got to keep working. And and the list of great fights goes on, because my pro debut was surreal, because I remember selling so many tickets for that fight. For one, I was surprised that I was able to sell as many tickets as I did. And then I remember when they called my name, the place was roaring. Like, I felt like the ring was vibrating, and I was like, wow, like this is crazy. Even my opponent was like, man, I'm not gonna lie, your crowd intimidated me, and it kind of put me on tilt. He was like, man, who am I fighting right now? My first belt victory, that was a very proud moment, because I won it in dramatic fashion, good fashion. We stepped in with a huge uppercut, and it landed perfectly. And to hold that belt, I was just so emotional. Hard work pays off. I'm actually making big moves now. And traveling to Mexico, that was my first fight out of the country. That was a big feeling for me, because I was so away from home that I just didn't know what to expect. Then I want to say, like, the fight in Saudi Arabia with Badu Jack, that was a great feeling to be able to be on that platform fighting the best of the best. And it's like those moments, I have those little prayers with myself, and I'm like, thank you, Lord, for being able to put me on the main stage so I can show the world what I'm capable of, and the skills that you gave me. So boxing will continuously give me those proud moments, and I hope that I can stay true to those moments.
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe you will. And it's, again, it's inspiration for people, it's inspirational for young fighters out there watching this, but it's inspirational for anybody who wants to achieve their dream. And that's why I love asking that question, because you hone in on specific fights. Sometimes you could miss something else over here that happened to you, and it's very good to get the broad picture of it as well. With that in mind, people always want to hear about toughest fights as well. But just to be clear on this one, obviously, toughest fights, it comes in different forms, doesn't it? I mean, sometimes it's not always power and who's the hardest hit. It can be a technical thing with a person. It can be speed. A lot of times when I talk to people about this, it's something that actually happened outside the ring, and they had to push through that to make that fight happen or get that win. But again, coming at it from the inspirational standpoint, what would you say was your most challenging fight, and how did you manage to overcome that challenge?
Yeah, well, I don't want to sound too cliche, but I find every fight to be my toughest fight, and my next fight will be my toughest fight. You know, I have to be really hard on myself, but if we're looking at maybe some of the specifics that can make things just a little bit tougher, I can remember one time where they call me up and they're like, all right, the fight is at 168, you know? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drop down to 168. And then I'm like at 170. So I'm feeling good. I'm ready to drop those last 2 pounds. And then before you know it, they call up, hey, he pulled out of the fight. I think the only guy we have available for you is a heavyweight guy that'll come in around 199. So why don't you just try to eat to get to a heavier cruiserweight? So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. Then he calls again. Hey, sorry, he pulled out, but we got a light heavyweight guy for you. We got to get down to 175. So I'm going up and down in weight. I'm going in saunas. Now I'm eating, and it was a nightmare. But we got the job done. And you know, there's a bunch of little stories like that make things just very difficult. I remember getting cut just a week before my fight, and they have to sew it up. And now I'm mentally fighting with like, oh, I have to really protect this eye. And you know, it's never easy for a fighter. And as much as they say like, oh yeah, I feel great, I'm ready to go in the ring and kick some butt, like, I don't know, like, no, I don't think anybody has a good training camp where there's no injuries or there's no issues with the family or issues with, you know, the sparring or making weight or whatever the case may be. But being a fighter is one of the toughest things on this earth.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely 100%. And I love that description as well, because what we do there is we get into things that people don't always see, you know. So obviously other fighters will know, and people who are around like in camps and things like that. And, you know, even with myself, you're around camps like with the media side and things. But it's, you know, people just watching a fight, they don't see some of this stuff. So I love to sort of put the spotlight on that a little bit and everything. Earlier on as well, you mentioned about Saudi Arabia, you mentioned about that. We've also talked about your hometown and your community. But in terms of your favorite places you fought with, you mentioned about your debut as well and the sort of electric atmosphere. Some of the places that boxing has taken you, I think this is quite inspiring for people because it's sort of an intangible reward that you get from the sport, you know, as well as the success and proving to yourself what you can do and the money and everything like that. Obviously, you do get to travel the world, travel your country, whatever. So are there certain places that have really welcomed you or you've really enjoyed going to through boxing, even if it's for training or sparring or something that really stand out in your mind?
Yeah, for sure. Going to Puerto Rico and going to La Perla was a blessing because that's, you know, my mother and my father are Puerto Rican, and to be there, it just, you know, really holds on to the culture and the heritage. It gives so much back. I was really into Colombia. I went to Colombia, and the people that immediately loved me. They showed me so much love, and you know, I remember when I got the victory, everybody was screaming my name, and even when I fought in Dominican Republic, the people were quick to get the get up. They were like, "Oh, Popeye," like, "Yeah, Popeye," and from there it was just everybody were really into it. I'm telling you, I love the fact that boxing has been able to get me to really travel the world, because I really can't say bad about any place that I've been. I really enjoyed it, and I'm telling you, when I go there, I like to soak myself in that. I like to saturate myself in the blessings and the people and the culture.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of it, really, isn't it? When you go somewhere, get away from the tourist stuff and just see the heart and soul of like what the place is really like, you know. I'm the same.
When we went to Saudi Arabia, we're eating on the floor with our hands. And I was like, this is so, you know, this isn't familiar to me. And I loved every moment of it. It's just, everybody's covered up, and it was just one of those things where it's like a culture shock, but it really was nothing that like steered me away or made me scared or uncomfortable. It was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Must have been an amazing experience. Let's give a mention to that fight as well, the Badal Jack fight. I mean, it's just one that people will want to know about. Again, not a really specific question, just your reflections on the fight, having had a little bit of time to think back to it. You've been in a lot of good fights, so I don't see your career as being in any way defined by that one, but it's just a popular one, people would like to hear about, I'm sure. So that fight, in your own words, please, would be really cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, the fight was one of those fights where we knew that we were going into that fight with the odds against us. I felt like knocking him out was a possibility, but the rules of boxing is you don't go looking for the knockout. It'll come. So I did my best to outbox him, make him miss, make him pay, stay moving, not really giving him the chance to earn any points by throwing any big combinations. And I thought we did just that. And I felt like we won that fight 7-3, 7 rounds to 3. And it didn't go my way, and that's what sucks, because everybody says you can't leave it to the judges, but it definitely hurt. But we're ready to accomplish bigger and better things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with that in mind, obviously you're coming off a very good win in your last fight. You're obviously planning for the future. So let's talk a little bit about the sort of the present day into the future, if you get what I mean, and what you're aiming for from here, your prediction for your next fight. And obviously the fire still burns inside of you very brightly. And like I said at the beginning, I personally feel that the best is yet to come for you in your career. So talking about the future, let's start with this upcoming fight. But even if we look beyond that a little bit, it would just be great to hear about what's driving you, what's motivating you from this point forward, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, nothing is set in stone right now, but if I could get a fight with Arthur Beterbiev, that would be who I have on my hit list. I've had some talk about possibly fighting Dmitry Bivol, but that to me is a fight that would be a little bit more beneficial in the future. If we went, and that's at the light heavyweight division, if we went up to the cruiserweight division, I still want to get my rematch with Badu Jack, get my belt back, and possibly even fight Ilunga Makabu. I feel like I'm able to really fluctuate from the cruiserweight division even all the way down to the super middleweight. But right now, our plans is to just stay in shape and just hope for the best to come.
Absolutely. That's a good point as well, because like we've said, the future is very, very bright. So, I mean, myself and a lot of people all around, we're looking forward to seeing what comes next for you. The best is yet to come. I know I've said that already, but that's my belief. In terms of talking about like some advice that you would give to people who want to achieve a big dream, a big goal. Obviously, this applies to young boxers, up and coming boxers and everything, but also it can apply to people who, even if they're chasing a different dream, there's some things that are very important. So you've mentioned your faith a couple of times, you've mentioned mental toughness earlier, again, these sort of intangible things, if you get what I mean. And it would just be good to get your advice for those people. Now, this is a big question. So to narrow it down, maybe if we just look at like 2 or 3 things that you regard to be essential outside of obviously training hard and being committed, because people should have that. But in terms of like the mindset, in terms of lifestyle, surrounding yourself with the right people, these are the sort of things that people don't talk about enough, if you get what I mean. It'd be good to get your thoughts on a few of those topics, like what your advice would be.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that, you got to stay strong and believe in what you're capable of. Protect your mind, your body, and your heart. You got to keep your mind focused. You got to keep your heart clean and your body strong. You got to do a lot to complete each element. And I believe that with hard work and perseverance, anything is truly possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, so powerful words, which I knew it would be. And but it's just something that I wanted to touch on. As well as that, obviously through your career, you've progressed obviously as a fighter, and you're getting better all the time. You're improving fight by fight physically. What would you say are some of the ways that boxing has improved you as a man, or as a human being, because this is something I get into with different champions, obviously in boxing and in MMA and a few other things as well. And obviously there's a real you really have to grow as a person to be able to do what you do. You can't be the same person you were like 5 years ago or whatever. So again, I know this is getting a little bit deeper with things, but I try and tackle a few things that people don't talk about enough to make it different. So with that in mind, what would be some of the ways that boxing has basically improved you as a human being in your body, mind, and soul, in whatever form that takes for you personally?
Yeah. Well, man, I definitely agree where boxing and life is hand in hand. It has so much in common. You have to work hard, you have to be humble, and I think most importantly is you have to be disciplined. You have to stay focused and just really hone into what you want in life. And as far as what boxing has done for me and made me a better person, it helps me all the way around, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because if I want to be fighting better, then I have to take care of my body, and I have to eat right, I have to eat clean, I have to be disciplined, I have to wake up, I have to do my training, I have to make sure I got you know all my T's crossed and my I's dotted. So it definitely helps me become more of a well-rounded human being. I definitely I'm humbled by the sport, which carries over into the real world. I try to treat everybody with the utmost respect, and I hope that with the things that I've learned in boxing, I can shed light to others.
Absolutely. Well, I believe you can, and personally, I believe you do. And that was part of the reason for asking that question as well, because you carry yourself in such a respectful way, and you always that humility and some of those principles you have, they do come over. So that was part of my reason for mentioning that as well. So we've talked about some good things. I mentioned at the beginning about people who supported you, when you were coming up and everything. And moving that forward a little bit, it'd be good to give a mention to some of the people who support you now, because the reason I ask this is obviously people who follow your career in depth, people who know you well, they know about these people, but to the fans, the people who are helping you, coaching you, guiding you, they're basically behind the scenes in a way, if you get what I mean, because there's a lot of people doing good work behind the scenes. Your family as well, most likely, come into this. So are there any people that you'd like to thank, or give a shout out to right now, excuse me, in the present day?
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to thank my mom, my brother, my sister, my whole family. I want to thank Gabriel Lamastus of Team La Perla in Puerto Rico. There's a huge list of names out here in Hartford, Connecticut. Some of my sponsors that are always helping me and you know, not just supporting me, but supporting me financially as well. Seven Puff Smokehouse and Up in Smoke. I just wanted to thank everybody that has been there along the way, and I always thank God for the people He puts in my life and the ones He don't. So maybe I wasn't able to mention you right now because I'm on the spot, but I just want to extend my thank you and my gratitude, and I appreciate all the love and support to all my fans all around the world now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is a question. Sorry about that, where it is a little bit on the spot. You have to just rattle off some names. But at the same time, it's good to give those people a mention, and to get their good work out there. So pretty much the last thing before we wrap this up is obviously a mention to the fans as well. I know you're a very accessible guy. Where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you? And what would you say to your fans and those people who watch you fight anywhere around the world?
Yeah, I mean, they could always check in on me at richard.popeye, my Instagram, or at the real Popeye on TikTok, where I'm always acting the fool. But I just like to say thank you, and I appreciate you guys, and I hope that I can continue being a role model and history maker in my land.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you will do. Well, Champ, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing, a few things that are a little bit different, speaking from the heart and everything. And like I said to you earlier, the future is bright, and I'm excited to see your next steps. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.